Government says it is working around the clock to get independent power producers to agree to restructure debt to the tune of $1.5 billion. Some producers have already raised concerns about the deal, despite some agreeing to the terms. Undertaking energy sector reforms is a crucial part of the $3 billion support program government secured from the IMF. Measures to be implemented include regular adjustment of tariffs. Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, says these are crucial measures necessary to ensure stable power.
That is so critical that we must ensure that power is available, and not just available, but power supply is reliable so that industry can function. But the finances in the power sector continues to be a challenge for us. We have a shortfall of about $1.4 billion now in the sector, which means that a number of measures have to be taken to reduce the shortfall. And this is why the government brought in the energy sector recovery program, which has led to the implementation of a number of measures, as a result of which the shortfall, which before was about $4 billion, has reduced to the $1.4 billion that we have. We have done this whilst keeping the lights on. You know, that is very significant. Whilst keeping the lights on, we have reduced the shortfall. You know, but some pockets of doom. Yeah, but those are isolated issues
they
that
are not
you
issues about financing.
No, I mean, no, until you get to that uninterruptible stage, which as a country we haven't gotten to, you will still have those isolated operational issues. But largely, we have kept the lights on. We never going back to the doom so that we experienced in the past.
He also reveals that government is hoping to reach a deal with the independent power producers to agree to a debt in excess of $1 billion cedis. You may recall that independent power producers have served notice of shutting down plants if government fails to honor its obligations. Eliklim Kwabena Frimpong is head of the Independent Power Producers Chamber.
We have some of our members who have already defaulted on their debt servicing. Others are also defaulting by the next month. And if action is not taken, we'll run into some difficulties. You know, our sources of funds are from the equity markets and the private markets, for which we cannot give any excuse for not able to make repayment when due. Otherwise, when we are constrained, we don't have an option than to pull out the plugs.
We can now hear from Dr. Amin Adam.
We need to still be very serious about organizing the finances very well to ensure that the energy sector is financially viable. That means that cost recovery tariffs is important. We must achieve cost recovery tariffs. It doesn't make sense to generate power at 10 cents and then you sell it at 8 cents. Who finances the 2 cents? You know, and so ECG also has to be looked at. I mean, fortunately, we have an MD who is a very serious MD. He has demonstrated that he's up to the task, who has embarked on operations, upon operations to collect their debts. And they've collected, I understand, about 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. We want to support them to continue to put fire in their operation so that they can recover. Because at the end of it all, tariffs are adjusted and yet they are not able to collect, what means that we are being counterproductive. And so we want to be able to do this. Now, you know that there is the cash waterfall mechanism, which has also helped in ensuring that you have cash flow. Now, the minister has engaged the IPPs and put an offer to them for the restructuring of their debts in line with the general debt restructuring that we are doing. And a number of them have positively responded to our offer. Some have asked for some modification in their power purchase agreements. And so ECG is engaging them on the restructuring of the power purchase agreements. And we should ensure that at the end of this negotiation, the debt levels are reduced so that we can keep current on our invoices.
Joining me in studio now is our data analyst, Isaac Kofi with the breakdown on the kind of debt or the entire debt we do owe these IPPs. Kofi, what does the data say?
Also, it's on the screen now, almost $2 billion. That's the total amount that we are talking about.
And why this is important is because at the IMF World Bank spring meetings, we all monitored and we saw how the IPPs or the restructuring of the IPP's debt actually featured heavily at the negotiation table. This is simply because this debt we are talking about is owed in dollars. So it means if you are doing anything like external debt restructuring or restructuring your debt that you hold in dollars, you cannot do away with this 1.63 billion. A while ago, I think about 2 or 3 months ago, it was 1.4 billion. Now we are learning it's 1.6 billion. It means the more we wait, the more the debt is being accumulated. This simply because currently we have about 14 IPPs operational in the country at the moment. And this 14 IPPs we're talking about, we've studied the data and we've realized that the energy sector, for instance, accumulates a debt burden of about 1 billion every year. And from, the excess capacity, the energy we generate but we don't use alone, the debt accumulated every year is approximately $500 million. And this tells you that this is an area we really, really have to tackle. In 2022, the finance minister was very categorical that renegotiation with some of these IPPs, I think there were 6 of them, renegotiation with them saved the country over $13 billion. This simply tells you that IPPs are very important because they control about 65% of our thermal generation. So if they tell you they will not participate in the debt restructuring, you should really be concerned, because if they cut power, just like you read in your headline, it's really going to have a negative toll on the country. So 65% of our thermal plant generation, our thermal energy generation. And just like I explained, every year, annual, this is how much we are, projecting that the energy sector accumulated debt burden of about $1 billion. And the debt from just excess capacity payment is around $500 million.
That's half of the 1 billion.
Half of the 1 billion. So it tells you that is why the IMF wants you to do an assessment, so that we know that even this 1.6 billion US dollars we're talking about, is it the correct amount? Is it the real amount? Because they want to have value for money. If you owe somebody 1.6 billion currently in this era of debt restructuring, it's really, really important.
All right. Thank you very much, Kofi. Now, still staying with the power sector, the Electricity Company of Ghana has begun phase 2 of its revenue drive today to retrieve over 1 billion cedis debt from customers. ECG in March 2023 initiated a nationwide revenue mobilization drive to recover some 5.7 billion debt, but the company was able to retrieve 3.1 billion out of the total amount. Managing Director of the ECG, Dubik Mahama, at a press conference last month noted that most of the unrecovered was lost to companies that folded up and could not be traced, as well as illegal connections. We can now listen to him make the point as he gave a moratorium for those involved in the illegal connections to come for ratification.
Tell from how quiet the whole place is. Everybody is out and we are mobilizing for our monies that are out there. Through the first exercise, we established what was missing, especially in terms of the individuals who were not paying. We have actually built up a number of bills and we've seen what is out there, and currently as we speak, private homes, the bill out there that we've built is about 2.1 billion that we are going to try to recoup. So what we are trying to do on this exercise is also to introduce the flat rate program. So for all those who've applied for meters, who have not gotten their meters yet, who have enjoyed power, we are going to try and put all of them on a flat rate. I know we've had conversations about why are we not prosecuting. To the conversations, I saw something that kept on coming down the line, which pointed out to us that, we are partly to be blamed for the predicament. And in so doing, it's going to be very difficult to send someone to prosecute them for power theft. So I wanted us to consider this period as an amnesty period. Anybody consuming power without a meter, make sure the ECG teams out there register you and put you on a flat rate. The flat rate, under the PRC law, we cannot recover beyond a year of what you've consumed. But in truth, we don't know how much you've been consuming, so we want to give you a flat rate and prorate it 6 months as a form of also a nice, fair gesture to you. So we have done our calculations per kilowatt hour, and we'll be rolling out. During this week, during the revenue mobilization exercise, some people would be put on the flat rate, and then we'll see how it rolls out. But there's going to be a bigger one, which will come out with their flagship program and how it's going to be, where we roll out there. Anybody with a faulty meter, even though the meter manufacturers are trying to close the gap, we still cannot let you consume at zero. The zero is a major loss to the company and a major loss to the country as a whole. So we want to bridge that gap by putting you on a flat rate. The teams will be able to register you with your phone number, your account details will be given to you, your Ghana card, or any reputable ID that you have, because we feel it's not fair to the average Ghanaian who's on a prepaid meter, who has to pay before he consumes. Yet there are other people that are paying that are not consuming. So that's the new style. But this week, during the revenue mobilization exercise, there will be some people that will be captured and put on a flat rate.
You're using the app to do that?
So we have not the main app, but we have a staff portal that we've granted access to every staff to capture people to that effect. So they'll capture you, they'll take you through your paces and then put you on the rate that you're supposed to be. It's calculated solely based on kilowatt hours. Right. And then you start paying that until your meter finally gets to you.
Now, Director of Communications at the ECG, William Boateng, is optimistic they will retrieve all debt and clamp down on illegal connections. He joins us live now for a chat. Now, grateful to you, sir, for joining us. How do you explain the instance where you are not able to trace companies who have used power from the ECG? And how do you intend to cover those losses from their end?
Or we are talking about customers.
Mr. Boateng, I only wanted to find out from you because the explanation is that there are companies that have already consumed power, but they are folded up and cannot be traced. And I'm asking, how do we explain that? And how do we intend to cover the losses from that end?
No, some of these things can take you by surprise. They don't show you their account. You have a business relationship with them. They pay sometimes on account, like instances where they come to negotiate with you. In fact, you don't have access to their books. So all of a sudden, before we say that, they are folded up, and then you have to drag them to court. So we use all legal means to ensure that we collect our money.
So is that what we are doing now? Do we know where these companies are?
Yes, some of them are in court. We have the list. Our tariff is handling that for us. So we know what we are doing, or we are following up to collect our money. Yes.
For those that we cannot trace, how do we intend to cover the losses?
In this type of business, there are some just have to write them out. It's not the first time. We have instances where demolition exercises, sometimes floods and things create problems for us. So yes. But we have a team, revenue assurance, they will look through the books and they are certain. They have to be certain that this is writable, or we have to write them off and then we'll do that. If not, we'll follow up and trace and get all the legal assistance we need to ensure that we collect money.
We understand you've begun this exercise. What's the focus of this phase of the exercise itself?
Well, we set ourselves two objectives. One is that we want to maintain the momentum in terms of revenue mobilization. We need the money for with the value chain, or make sure that we oil the value chain. So that is one. And then two, we want to ensure that going forward, everybody in the ECG operational area consuming electricity is free. And that is why the manager can make mention of the staff portal app using our phones. So, for example, we released almost 4,000 staff on the ground, and when we enter any place, any house, any hamlet, and you are not a ECG customer, so long as you are using it, we will tell you, take your data and everything, and then straight ahead become a customer, and work out how much you are going to pay every month. What you need mention of the platform.
Does it look like this is how you will deal with the entire illegal connections that people do engage in?
Yes, it's one aspect of it.
You know, we have customers who are, yes, our customers, but sometimes they are not truthful to us. After you serve them, or after you've done business with them, you leave the thing because you can police everywhere, you know that. And then they find ways and means to cheat the system. That's another different level. But we are talking about also customers that they're also cheating, of course, and that we need to take action. We need to capture them. And so when we have the numbers now, then we know the numbers we are dealing with. And that's where we increase our monitoring exercises to ensure that nobody's cheating the system. Because that's how best we are going to be commercial losses and make sure we make the company viable going forward.
Okay. There's also the issue about households that the Ghana Statistical Service brought out and the numbers that you have at your end. How do we explain the differences?
Well, it's alarming. It's alarming. If the numbers we see is anything to go by, I mean, we are talking about 6.5 million in the certain sector where we operate. Our customer population is something a little about 4.5 million. We are dealing with something conservatively, something around 2 million. Let's say 1 million. We think that we are not two. We think that 2 million customers. No, there's a gap. That all these households are talking about 2 million. They are not using electricity. No way. And that is why we have rolled out this particular project where we are capturing every customer. So come the next exercise, which is going to be mega. Management is planning something about 1 month. We release all our staff, including national service personnel, to assist us. And we are visiting every house. If we should do this about 3 different occasions, I'm sure we'll capture a lot of customers who are not in our data, and we'll improve our commercial losses. Or we'll reduce our commercial losses.
Grateful to you for joining us. We wish you all the best, sir. Now, to still staying on the power sector, some residents of the Techima municipality of the Bono East region have condemned the recent hike in utility tariffs as announced by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. The residents contend that the 18% increment will compound the already worsening economic hardships in the country and appeal to government to rescind the decision. My colleague Anas Sabet has been engaging some consumers and has filed this report.
The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has announced an increase of 18.36% in average end-user electricity consumer tariff for the second quarter of this year, and this, according to some residents of the Techima municipality of the Bono East region, would compound the already worsening economic hardships in the country. These residents who have been expressing disappointments in the PURC says Ghanaians are already struggling with the hikes in the prices of goods and services, and this would worsen their plight.
As for the bills, especially the light bill, it's very too much. See, like young boy like me, I've been paying light bill like 130 cedis a month. My monthly salary is almost 330. So how can I make life? The bills is too much.
These residents say they were already faced with declining profit margins on their products and services, and the implementation of the new tariff would make life difficult for them.
The work we are doing, things is not easy. And if the work I'm doing to pay electricity, light bill, water bill, and school fees and all that, I can't survive. So they have to do something about it.
Salifu, also known as Officer, is afraid the new tariff, if not checked, would lead to a rise in illegal connections by consumers.
We see the electricity, how they increase the price. It can't help because the price that we are paying, we are still complaining, and someone is coming to add. So this it let people, it will let illegal become more because I can't sleep darkness. I have to use light, and I can't get the money to pay. When I get illegal, I must use it. So VR people, it won't help them.
They are all appealing to government and the PURC to reconsider this decision and work towards maintaining the current tariff to save their businesses from collapsing.
How can a small boy like me pay 130 cedis light bill for a month? And we have other utility bills too. So we plead them. They have to do something for us.
They should try to bring the price down so that when the price be affordable, everybody can afford the price or afford the money to pay.
Techiman area manager for the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, John Tyree, admonished consumers to work towards using power judiciously and stay disciplined in their use of electricity.
upwards adjustment of the tariff is good for the utilities. However, we are not oblivious of the difficulties consumers have to pay. We are equally consumers. We use electricity and we pay for it. But what is the option? The challenge is that people have difficulties to pay. But the good thing about electricity bills is that it is always commensurate with your income. Because if you cannot afford what uses the power in your room, you are never going to incur the cost of electricity.
He was, however, quick to add that the authority, as usual, will remain alert by monitoring people who are interested in power thefts. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Tichiman.
The Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, JUSAG, has decided to temporarily halt its ongoing indefinite strike, which had severely disrupted the dispensation of justice nationwide for almost a week. The decision to embark on the strike was prompted by government's failure to address critical matters, including salary review and other pressing work-related concerns affecting JUSAG members. Following several meetings with government officials, the association has agreed to suspend the strike, during which negotiations with the government will take place. Meanwhile, the group says it will not hesitate to resume its industrial action if government fails to live up to its promises. Samuel Afote is president of the group.
The ongoing strike be suspended for 2 weeks to pave way for engagement among parties in order to fast-track the consideration, approval, and payment of the new salaries in the month of June 2023. Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, to commit the parties to sincere and amicable resolution of the issue within timelines given. In the later part of today, JUSAG also had a meeting with management of the Judicial Service under the chairmanship of the Acting Chief Justice, His Lordship Justice Jones Doche. Also present were the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, representing the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, the incoming Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Araba Gertrude Tokonu, and others. The strike is only suspended, but not called off. If government does not show the needed commitment, we shall advise ourselves.
To other stories now, and April 3, Assistant Inspectors of the Ghana Immigration Service, Philip Motte, Afari, and Eric Edia, were gunned down in Boko. The three were rushed to the Boko Presbyterian Hospital, but Philip Motte, 42, did not survive his wounds. As sympathizers gathered to lay him to rest over the weekend, his family wonders, was his death a carefully planned and executed murder?
The family of Assistant Inspector Philip Motte, an immigration officer who was tragically shot dead in Boku in the Upper East region, is raising serious concerns and alleging foul play about his untimely demise. On April 3, while Philip Motte and 2 other immigration officers were en route from Boku to Mississauga, their vehicle came under fire from unidentified gunmen. The attack resulted in the death of 42-year-old Philip Motte, who was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. As family members, government officials, service personnel, sympathizers and friends gathered at the Good Church Evangelical Church in Lashibi over the weekend to bid their final farewell, brother of the deceased, Cephas Motte, said the incident was carefully planned and an orchestrated act of murder.
Now, what happened that Easter Monday was not an accident. It was not a robbery. What happened that day was a carefully designed, properly planned, well orchestrated, thoughtfully calculated, and duly executed barbaric, cruel, and gruesome act of murder. And Cephas find it extremely difficult to forgive. Not even with the intervention of Christ himself. And I will not miss my words because I stand on this podium to speak the truth. That is what it is meant to be, the church. I find it extremely difficult to forgive. I will not ask Philip to rest in peace. It is his choice if he wants to rest in peace. If he does not want to rest in peace, I leave it to him.
Cephas Motte also expressed skepticism regarding the outcome of the investigations into his brother's death.
We've been assured that investigations are ongoing, but then, just like the journalist Ahmed Swale's investigations, just like my late Professor Bennett, the law professor's investigations, the MP J.B. Dankwa's investigations, what have come out of them? I do not see any justice for my brother. We, the siblings, do not believe that anything will come out of this. There's going to be one pomp and pageantry of a ceremonial something. That is what we believe. We've lost someone who was going to become our mother's third lawyer. And at 79, she sits there very confused at the burial ceremony of her son.
May God keep the soul of the departed. Ghana has been ranked on top of a global league table with the highest number of women peacekeepers in the world. That's according to the United Nations, which is today marking 75 years of international peacekeeping operations. A special event was marked at the State House in Accra today to honor the dedication and sacrifice of men and women working to protect civilians caught up in deadly conflict around the world. There's more in this report.
Blue Berets marching in honor of current and ex-servicemen whose works are critical to the protection of civilians caught up in chaotic and deadly conflicts. The United Nations in the last 75 years has dedicated this day to international peacekeepers by celebrating their important role in creating a peaceful world order. Here in Ghana, a ceremony was held at the State House, bringing together all relevant actors to reflect on the need for persons all over the world to choose peace. Charles Abani is resident coordinator of the United Nations in Ghana.
Today, we honor the men and women who have dedicated their lives to upholding peace and security around the world and to reflect on their invaluable contributions. We also remember and pay tribute to those who have fallen along the way while keeping the peace. May the good Lord rest their souls in eternal peace. To attain peace, we need the collective effort of all. Hence, we boldly say, peace begins with me. The Secretary General's new agenda for peace makes prevention of conflicts a universal priority and responsibility of member states of the United Nations. Just earlier this month, 700 Ghanaian peacekeepers, including 68 women, were awarded the prestigious United Nations Medal for their commitment to shaping a more peaceful and prosperous future for the people of the world's youngest nation. One of the most remarkable achievements of the Ghanaian peacekeepers was their response to the catastrophic breach in the dike surrounding Bentiu, Unity State in South Sudan's internally displaced persons camp last year.
Also present at the event were members of the diplomatic community, school children selected from a number of basic institutions across the country, and other government officials. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Thomas Mbomba, used the occasion to reaffirm the commitment of Ghana towards contributing to global peace.
Excellencies, as one of the pioneering troop contributing countries of the United Nations peacekeeping efforts, Ghana recognizes the key role that the United Nations plays in the maintenance of international peace and security. In conclusion, let us use this occasion to reaffirm our commitment to peace and pay tribute to to the bravery and sacrifice of peacekeepers around the world.
Since 1948, more than 2 million uniformed and civilian personnel have served at UN field missions across the world, with a present count of 87,000 peacekeepers from 125 countries serving in 12 UN operations located in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East.
Enjoy NewsPrime here on the Joy News channel. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, the ruling New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region is pleading with government to turn attention to the construction of the Swami Interchange project. After President Akufo-Addo cut sword in October 2022, the project is yet to commence. The 40-year interchange project to be constructed in 2 phases within 30 months will include 5 overpasses and the widening of Kumasi Offenso Road. Pardon me. Now, Jima has more in the following report. Apologies to you, we'll bring that video later on. Now, flag bearer hopeful of the governing New Patriotic Party, Dr. Efriye Akoto, is challenging journalists to interrogate the basis of political polls and not consider them as a gospel truth. According to him, such polls are usually sponsored and do not reflect the exact reality on the ground. The former Food and Agriculture Minister made these comments in his address to supporters who picked and presented nomination forms for his candidature. My colleague Samuel Imbra has more in this report.
Supporters of the former Agric Minister, Dr. Efriye Akoto, thronged the headquarters of the MPP to pick nomination forms for his candidature. According to the group, he has a proven record of competence, citing the Planting for Food and Jobs policy as a game changer in the Akufo-Addo government. They therefore believe that given the nod, he would do more as a leader of the MPP and president of the country.
Yes, let more food come to Ghana, especially Abubrushi area. We have yam, plantain, cocoa yam, everything at Agogoshi market. So I'm supporting him so that when he comes, he become a flag bearer. You let more food come to Ghana.
I'm rooting for Akoto simply because I've seen the job he has done at the agri sector. Comparatively, there is none that has come to do a job as he has done. And I believe that at least when he takes the mantle, he'll be able to move the nation to where we need.
I believe in him. I believe his policies, the competency, the resilience, the strength and the loyalty.
Akoto give us food when we are in need of food. His program gives us food in Ghana. So I think if he be president, he can do better. That's why I'm supporting him.
Spokesperson for the campaign team, Dr. Prince Amuzu, indicated the supporters who have mobilized resources to purchase the forms are farmers who have trust in the candidature of Dr. Efriye Akoto and expressed gratitude for their support.
These farmers and friends are all across the country, and they have come out boldly to say they want to encourage Dr. Akoto. The delegates, the farmers, the good people of Ghana, we say thank you.
The forms were later presented to Dr. Efriye Akoto at his campaign office, where he admonished supporters to disregard any polls, suggesting he is not capable of winning the elections, while challenging journalists to interrogate the basis of such polls because they are not realistic.
I have never sponsored any poll. Find out who is sponsoring those polls. If I sponsor a poll, I bet you they will say that I'm first. But I won't, because it's self-deceiving. It doesn't serve any purpose. We know what you are doing on the ground. So all the polls in the world can say whatever they want, but we are talking about the 900 people who will be voted, the super delegates, and the 210,000 delegates who will be voted on the 4th of November. That's what matters. So I don't know the basis, and you as a journalist, you should be questioning the basis of these polls. You just take them as gospel. You don't even know the statistical significance of them, the population, the sample size, all those things, to be able to intelligently question them. You just take them as, oh, this poll is saying this person is leading, this person is leading. Let them lead, but the delegates have the last word.
The picking of nomination forms by Dr. Friya Koto brings the number of aspirant hopeful in the MPP presidential race to 5. Meanwhile, nominations are still opened for any interested qualified party member. Samuel Mbura, Joy News.
Let's return to the Ashanti region, and the ruling New Patriotic Party in the region is pleading with the government to turn attention to the construction of the Swami Interchange project. After President Akufo-Addo cut sword for that construction in October 2022, the project is yet to commence. The 4-tier interchange project, to be constructed in 2 phases within 30 months, will include 5 overpasses and the widening of Kumasi-Offensu Road. Nana Ojima has more in the following report.
The 4-tier interchange project will include 5 overpasses at Krofrom, Abrepo, Anomanye, and Magazine New Road, as well as Ebusiakruwa junctions. It will also result in the widening of sections of the Kumasi Ring Road and Offensu Road into 3-lane dual carriageway, whilst additional 15-kilometer stretch of local roads would be developed.
The Swami Interchange will be the first 4-tier interchange in the Ashanti region and the second in Ghana after the Pokwase Interchange, which I commissioned on 9th July 2021. Once completed, it will address the perennial congestion experienced around the Swami roundabout and improve urban mobility within the greater Kumasi metropolitan area.
Last week, some media personalities in Kumasi organized some residents to clear overgrown weeds at the roundabout, which is partially cordoned off. Regional NPP chairman Bernard Enchibo-Siakon says the electoral fortunes of the party in Ashanti is heavily dependent on completion of the Swami Interchange project.
Because Ashanti mine, as some more can say,
What the Ashanti region wants is that the Swami Interchange commences. In 2020, they requested for the Buankra Inland Port to commence, and they voted for us for the commitment.
2024. As a regional chairman,
so all that they want is for the interchange to commence. As a regional chairman, we will also have to communicate such sentiments to the president.
Na Akufo-Addo so think say Astella Asanteman ehia Swami Interchange no. Ayadia Asanteman say omo ni mu say e be hase ansana 2024 no aba.
A press conference was organized by the party to mark the 1 year in office of the present NPP leadership, touting the party's victory in Kumawu as the administration's major achievement. Chairman Wuntumi is convinced of breaking the 8.
God speak to the leader, but he don't speak to the followers. God speak to Akufo-Addo, but he don't speak to John Dramani Mahama. So with God, and as it has written in Exodus 14:13-14, we will win on 2024. Onyankopon Ishra Santemai.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Now, the 7-day Adventist hospitals across the country have recorded 0 maternal mortality in the first quarter of the year. These 30 hospitals and health centers also recorded 0 cases of child and infant mortality in the same quarter. These achievements were made known at the annual general meeting of the Ghana Adventist Health Service Nurse Managers in Tamale.
The 4th annual general meeting of the Ghana Adventist Health Service is a platform to equip the nurse managers with leadership skills to be able to connect, model, and add value to their junior colleagues. It is also to offer them a platform to review their performance and how to improve their delivery. Speaking in an interview at the opening ceremony, Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer of GAS, Annabella Abwajajiman, said even though they had just a few maternal mortality cases, they decided to add innovation to bring it to zero.
This year, 2023, we have zero maternal death within all our health institutions, both the clinic and the hospitals. We said we have about 19 hospitals and the event clinics, which recorded zero maternal death this particular quarter. And we have realized the improvement in this delivery service because, one, we have introduced fruit bazaar in antenatal service where mothers are encouraged to come to our facility for antenatal services. We give them fruits and other food supplements so that they can improve on their nutritional status. We also have frequent training for our midwives, in-service training for our midwives, so that they can handle pregnant women, so that they can refer them as soon as possible. We have gynecologists and other doctors available. We want to know that, make sure that at least every pregnant woman accessing our facility will have fruits, which will help in absorption of iron. We have fruit is high in vitamin C, helps absorption of iron, so that they have fruit eaten under our observation at least 4 times during their visits. So when they come, before we even give them the food, we have some exercise. The physiotherapy guys come around, we have some music, then they do this pregnancy exercise. And after the exercise, we offer them with the fruits, and they eat the fruits under observation.
The Northern Regional Acting Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Baba Brema Abubakar, who was the guest speaker, said nurses were a reflection of health facilities people visit. Therefore, the need for them to live up to date to deliver quality health service.
In the health service provision everywhere, nurses form the majority of employees. So therefore, the quality of nursing care is a mirror reflection of the health service that we render. People usually express their perception of a health facility based on their experience with the nursing care during their stay in the facility. It's therefore imperative that meetings such as this is organized to take stock of what we do and to strategize on moving forward nursing and moving forward.
The chairman of the occasion, Pastor Paul Dapasonkwa, urged the nurses to discharge their duties in the way that it will bring change in their various hospitals.
I think that we should not take this one as formality, but rather we have to go out there to discharge our duties in such a way that it will bring changes and growth in our various health facilities. And I think you will benefit, and the entire nation too will benefit. So it is my prayer that annual meetings will not be done as we used to do. But whatever we are going to do over here, we are going to bring new blood into it. And at the end of it all, people will get to know that indeed there have been changes brought in our services.
Good evening and welcome to Prime Business here on Joy News Prime with me, Beverly Broom. We go straight to our very first story, and Fitch Solutions has maintained its 2.9% growth rate for Ghana in 2023, despite the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank all forecasting below 2.0% expansion of the economy this year. The following report has more.
Latest reports in Ghana dubbed Ghanaian economy will underperform in 2023 and 2024. Fitch Solutions said fiscal austerity efforts will put a damp on private consumption through 2023, clouding economic growth prospects. It furthered that the new taxes introduced as part of the International Monetary Fund program will exert downward pressure on purchasing power and thereby weaken the outlook for private consumption. In addition, a rise in taxes will slow the pace of disinflation over the coming quarters. It stressed that while a more stable exchange rate and moderating global commodity prices will see price growth moderate over the coming quarters, inflation will remain sticky to the upside as tax increases will result in further upward adjustments to consumer prices. Meanwhile, Fitch Solutions is forecasting a real gross domestic product growth to accelerate 3.7% in 2024. However, it will remain below the 5-year pre-pandemic average of 5.3%.
Now, the Institute of Economic Affairs is asking government to create strong economic buffers to cushion the economy amidst crisis. Director of Research at the Institute, Dr. John Kwachi, said this is the only way Ghana would stop heading to the IMF for bailout in times of crisis. Speaking at a press conference, he indicated that government should put up robust fiscal measures to protect all productive sectors of the economy.
Economic and financial buffers. These are classic, things that every country should take into consideration. It's important for every country to. It's not just Ghana. In other words, you want to always your budget, your fiscal policy. You must always have space, so that in case of emergency, contingency, in fact, even some countries, create budget surpluses, to keep it. Do you get me? I'm not saying maybe we are not there, but you must try and create enough fiscal space. Do you get me? By increasing your revenues and lowering your, so that you are close to a budget, even balance, if not a surplus. If you create a surplus, then you can keep it for an emergency. In fact, there are some countries that have even, I think in the UK, they've introduced a fiscal rule that says if they allow borrowing, you can have a deficit. But when you borrow, you can only spend it on investment. That's also a good thing. Do you get me? In other words, you don't let government go and borrow and come and use it for consumption. Somebody reported corruption. For consumption, for recurrent expenditure. These are some of the things that we have suggested that we can put it in the law, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That's one.
Moving on, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, is doubtful it will reduce prices of goods following the lifting of restrictions at the country's borders due to announcement by government that COVID-19 is no longer a pandemic. According to the association, the high macroeconomic fundamentals are still stifling their growth. Hence, any attempt to reduce prices will further worsen their plight. Dr. Joseph Obeng is president of GUTA and has been speaking to Joy Business.
Prices of goods and services are tied up to the economic indicators, exchange rate, interest rate, and the inflation. So if there's no improvement here, then of course we are not going to see any improvement in the prices positively to affect the consuming public. It's as simple as that. So we have to do everything possible to reduce the cost of doing business. And that we don't have to do unnecessary speculation that price is going to go down or up. Prices are tied up to these indicators that I've mentioned. If inflation is high, if interest rate, cost of borrowing is over 40%, if exchange rate is also high, it's very volatile these days. It goes down and it goes up. There's no stability in there. If there's stability, then of course it will also affect prices positively. But we should also know that even during the COVID time, there was business as usual. So this one doesn't bring anything new. And so I don't expect anything that is coming out of this restriction, because business has been usual since 2021.
Now, renowned economist Dr. Joe Abe has passed on. Joy Business is learning that he passed on over the weekend. Dr. Joe Abe, until his demise, was the executive director of the Center for Policy Analysis, a think tank that focuses on economic research and analysis. There's more on the life of Dr. Joe Abe and some of the things he stood for during his career.
Dr. Joe Abe, until his demise, was the executive director of the Center for Policy Analysis, a position that he later coordinated remotely in terms of activities of the center. The economic policy think tank basically focuses on economic research and analysis and publications on economic issues. Dr. Abe contributed immensely to a lot of economic issues and debates at the national level. He was a resource person for some of our major programs here at Joy Business over the past years, and even a guest on our PM Express show. Dr. Joe Abbey also served once as government statistician and diplomat. He also did some work with the Ministry of Finance. Dr. Joe Abbey was 82 years and would have been 83.
And that's how we end Prime Business tonight. For more business news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I'm Beverly Broom. Sports is next.